everybody, welcome back again. My name is Miss Paige and I am a health educator at the Poe Center for Health Education in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've done a couple physical activity videos for the Poe Center so far as we work on some of our virtual programming so we can bring you our awesome content while y'all are all safely at home. But today, so we're going to do another one. We're going to add in just a little bit of review from some of my first videos. And then we're going to give y'all another physical activity challenge to do on your own. We are going to be using two of the physical fitness components that we talked about last time. We're going to be focusing on our muscular endurance, which if you remember is how long you can make those muscles work for you, right? So not necessarily how much you can do or move at one time, but how long over time you can hold the working of your muscles. And then we're also going to focus on that cardiovascular endurance, so the things where your breathing gets faster and your heart rate goes up. And both of those components of fitness are the two that we're going to be focusing on with today's challenge. The challenge that we're going to be doing this time is what we call the Spell Your Name Challenge. So you may have seen this online before. Every letter in the alphabet is assigned a movement and a number of times you have to do that movement. And then what the challenge is to maybe like spell out your whole name and write down what all the different movements and types of movements you would do and how many of them, and go through your whole name and see if you can do that. And that's just a creative and fun way to do a little bit of physical activity and exercise. Now, we all have different names, and probably none of y'all want to spend all your time spelling out my name because that's not very fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a Poe challenge where we all spell the same thing with this particular exercise challenge. And the phrase that we are going to spell is "eat the rainbow." And we chose this one because this is such an important message. We want to make sure, according to my plate, right, that half of our plate that we eat is fruits and vegetables. And within that fruits and vegetables, we want to make sure that we eat a variety of colors, because every different color and type of fruit and vegetable has a different mineral and vitamin and nutrition content that's really important and good for our bodies. So we always encourage everyone to eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables. And so that's why we're going to go ahead and spell this phrase out. We're going to get some good physical activity out of it, and we're also going to drive home an important message about nutrition. If you remember back to the very first video that I did, what we talked about there was what we have to do before and after we do our physical activity and exercises, right? We need to make sure that we're stretching before and after exercising. So, before exercise, we do what we call dynamic stretches. And these are ones where we kind of move through and start to just prep our muscles so they are ready to go. So we're not holding anything, we're just starting to get our muscles moving and going. So we're going to go ahead and do a bunch of dynamic stretches all together right now. So make sure that at home, right, you have some space where you can kind of move around and make sure you're not going to hit anything or anybody near you, right? And we're going to go ahead and jump into some of these stretches. So the first one that we're going to do is toe touches, all right? I'm going to do this sideways so you can see. I'm going to keep my legs as straight as I can, but I'm going to soften my knees just a little bit, right, so that they're not locked out. And I'm going to go ahead and just reach down to my toes and stand all the way back up. Good. Probably going to do like 10 of these. These are really good for the backs of our legs, or the muscles that we call the hamstrings. So we should be feeling a nice stretch through here. Good. We'll do a bunch of those. All right. And now we're going to do some side bends. These are going to be good a little bit for our legs and also kind of up through the sides of our core, right? So legs a little bit wider out. Okay, we again keep those knees soft. We don't want to lock them out. And we're just going to bend over to the side till we feel a stretch up through our side and come back up. We're going to just move through some of those on each side just to kind of get everything moving and comfortable. Good. All right. We're going to do a little bit more for our core or our trunk today. We're going to do some trunk twists. So we have a nice steady feet on the ground, and we're just going to go ahead and twist side to side. You might feel this up through parts of your lower and upper back too, especially if you've been sitting a lot recently. Maybe in your hips if you've been sitting a lot. Just open that up. Good. And then we're going do some arm swings. These are pretty fun, so just make sure that there's enough space between you and the ceiling, or if you're outside, I guess that doesn't matter, right? And we're just gonna swing our arms up and down. These are really good for warming up through our shoulders and our arms. Good. And then, similar, still swinging, we're gonna transition to go out wide and then give ourselves a nice big hug. These are good for opening up our chest and our back. And then again, also, we're getting our shoulders a little bit in here too. And then, just because this is a spot where a lot of people tend to hold tension, I know I hold tension through my neck, we're just going to do some nice neck circles. I don't want anyone to try and stretch their neck too far. We don't want to pull anything. We just want to have some nice circles just to open it up and get our neck into some positions that maybe it's not always in. All right, and make sure you switch sides. Do like 5 one way, and then make sure you do like 5 the other way. Just make sure you're being nice and even with how you're stretching. Good. So that's a good full body kind of opener start for any kind of physical activity that you can do where we're focusing on those dynamic stretches. Now that our body is a little bit more ready to jump right into this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and walk through the movements that we have today for the letters that spell out Eat the Rainbow to make sure that we know what all those movements are ahead of time, and to give you some scaling options to make things either more difficult or a little bit easier depending on if certain movements are ones that you are proficient at or ones that you're still kind of working on. So the first movement that we have is a push-up, okay? So for the push-up, we want to be down in our plank position, right? So nice solid plank position, okay? Nice straight body. And for a full push-up, we're going to come all the way down to the ground and then push all the way back up. Now, that's a pretty tough movement, so what we could do to make it a little bit easier is come down onto our knees. The rest of our body stays in that nice straight plank position. We just have our knees on the ground, right? So that's a little bit easier, and we go down and up. Good. And then, if you are still thinking that might be a little bit too much for me still, what you can do, and I don't have a wall out here so I can't demonstrate this for you, but what you could do is come up to a wall, put your hands up onto the wall, kind of lean forward just a little bit, and come down till your face is at the wall and push back up, okay? So that's going to focus a little bit more on your triceps, but it's going to allow you to get that full push-up motion just a little bit, in a little bit more comfortable position for you if being down in that full plank or knees down position is not ideal. The next movement that we have today is what we call a jump squat. So this is taking a regular squat and kind of spicing it up just a little bit for fun. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to be starting in that squat position. So our feet are going to be a little bit wider than hip distance apart. And for many people, turning your toes outwards just a little bit is going to be the most comfortable way to do that. We're going to come all the way down into our squat. And then on the way back up, we're going to just jump ourselves right off the ground. Okay? So that adds a little bit of a dynamic motion to a squat movement. Now, if a jump doesn't feel good for you for any reason, maybe it's hard on your knees, you can go ahead and just do regular air squats for that. Okay? So that's good scaling there. If you're struggling even with a regular air squat, something that you could do is if you have a chair, you could go ahead and sit down into a chair and then stand back up from the chair. So there's a lot of different ways to get this movement in, no matter what your fitness level is. The next movement that we have is lunges. So again, I'm going to do this one from the side so you can really see me, okay? So for a lunge, this is again focused on our legs, just like those jump squats were. We're going to take one step forward. Ooh, we got to keep our balance. And take one step forward and come down onto that back knee. So my feet are a little bit close together here. I might want to move that front leg forward a little. We want to try and have a 90-degree angle here and a 90-degree angle here. That's our goal with these lunges. Okay, so we're going to come down onto our knee and then step ourselves back up. To make this a little bit easier, maybe if balance is something that you struggle with, like clearly I do, you can have something close to you where you can put your hand on it, maybe a counter or a wall for balance, or just bring your knee down as far as you can with it, while still being comfortable, and stand back up from there, okay? And for a lot of these movements, like our squats and our lunges, if you feel like they're too easy, You could always add a little bit of weight. If you have maybe a dumbbell at home or a kettlebell, you can hold on to that while you're doing that movement to make it just a little bit harder and a little bit spicier. The next movement that we're going to talk about is a sit-up, okay? And we have two different types of sit-ups that are going to come up in the workout today, so I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time. So for a sit-up, you want to go ahead and sit down on the ground, obviously, right? And there's two different ways that you can put your feet. One is having them up with your knees up like this, okay? And the other one is having them out in a butterfly position. You can do whichever one is more comfortable for you. However, I really like this butterfly position because what it does is it allows me to get a little bit further into my range of motion. I can come a little bit further forward because my knees aren't in the way, and that gives my core just a little bit of extra work. Okay, so I'm going to have my knees down. So for that sit-up, what you're going to do is you're just going to come all the way back, touch your hands to the floor behind your head, and sit all the way up and touch the floor in front of your feet. Okay, so that's our sit-up. We have another movement like this in the workout today that we're going to talk about too, called crunches. So for this one, we are going to have our knees up, and we're working on a similar part of our body, right? We're still working on our core, but we're going to do it with a little bit less dynamicism in our movement, right? So we're going to come down into the same position. You can put your hands behind your head to help support your neck. I like to do that. And for a crunch, we're just going to crunch ourselves up until our shoulders come off the ground. So it's going to look like this. Okay? So it's not as big of a movement as that sit-up, but it's still focusing on this ab or core area. The next movement that we have is a plank, or more specifically, a side plank. So we all know the regular plank position right here is the one we're in for our push-ups, okay? And you can hold that either on your hands or down on your elbows. Whichever is more comfortable for you is totally fine. So that's one option for today, is the plank. Now, what it's written as, what the name challenge has for this movement is actually 30 seconds of a plank on each side. So a single side plank. So if you want to try that with me today, what that's going to look like is coming down, and again, you can do it either on your hand or down on your elbow. Either way is fine. But you're going to be laying on your side, and you're going to go ahead and pop those hips up and hold this position here with a nice straight line through here. And this is going to be really good for focusing on the sides of your abs or your obliques, right? So we're holding here. And we're going to do 30 seconds of that on each side. And that can be pretty tough to balance, for sure. So if you're struggling with that balance and you're not really sure that you want to do that, that's okay. You can do a regular plank and hold that for a minute. And if a regular plank is still difficult, we can go ahead and come down onto our knees and hold this plank position on our knees. Now, these time frames that we have, the 30 seconds on each side or a full minute, that's our goal. If you need to split that up into a couple of different sets, that's okay. So if you are going to hold your side plank and you want to do 15 seconds and then come down and rest for a minute and then do 15 more seconds, that's a great option, and just build to that 30 seconds. Another one that's going to come up today is what we call plank jacks. So we're going to still be in that plank position, okay? But this time, we're going to be working with our feet, okay? What we're going to do for a plank jack is we're going to pop our feet out and then pop them back in. Okay? That's what we call a plank jack. That can be a lot of pressure down onto your shoulders. If you try that and that movement is just not for you, you can go ahead and stand up and we'll do regular jumping jacks for that part. Okay? So that's a scale option for that. And the last movement that we have today is going to be a wall sit. So maybe some of us remember doing this in gym class. But a wall sit is when you're going to need a wall for this, right? And what's going to happen is you're going to come down into, like you're sitting on a chair, but there's just not a chair there, right? You're going to press yourself back into the wall, and you're going to hold in that position for however long it is, 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever. Now, if you don't have a wall, see, I don't have a wall here. So if you don't have a wall, an alternative option is that you can go ahead and just come down into a squat and just hold there, right? And that'll start to burn in those quads and those thighs too, so it'll still be a good movement. Or if you don't feel comfortable sitting down there in a squat for that long, sometimes that can be difficult for our hips, you can just use some regular air squats for that 30 seconds or 60 seconds, however long the time is. So we've done our dynamic stretches and we have gone through all the movements that we have in the workout today. And so next, all that's left to do is to actually do the Eat the Rainbow challenge. So again, I have with me Coach Hugh. He's going to be helping me out today so that he can read out the movements that I have next so I know what's coming. And he's also going to have a timer so that he can tell me how long this takes me. But I want to say before we get started, I want to just remind everybody something that's really, really important while you're doing exercise is to make sure that you always have water, right? Especially right now, it's super hot out. I know I'm sweating outside. It's really humid, and we want to make sure that we're replacing our water as we're sweating it out. So as we're going through this, make sure that you always have water available for all your exercise. And also, if you need a break, if you decide to take this Eat the Rainbow challenge, make sure you have water with you and take a break whenever you need to get a sip of water. We want to make sure that we're staying really well hydrated. So I'm going to start with a sip as Coach Hugh gets our timer ready and make sure that we're ready to go. All right. And are we good?
We're set.
We're ready. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to be the very first person to take the Post Center's Eat the Rainbow challenge.
All right. First movement is going to be 20 push-ups.
Okay.
And we'll start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Time. 10 minutes, 10 seconds.
Oh, 10 minutes and 10 seconds? That's how long it took me to do the Post Center Eat the Rainbow challenge. So, whew, now it's your time. I'm real sweaty, y'all. Let me get a sip of water. So, now it is your turn. See if you can maybe beat that 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Go a little bit faster than me. And as a reminder, after we do any kind of exercise, we need to make sure that we're doing some static stretches, right? We need to cool our muscles down. So take your time to get some water and breathe. Bring your heart rate back down. But we're going to go ahead and do some static stretches to start. So we're going to go the opposite direction that we did in the beginning with our dynamic stretches. We're going to start with our arms. So first, we're going to do a little bit for our shoulders. We're going to take one arm and put it right out in front of us and bring it across our body. And we're going to use the other arm to pull it towards us. And we're going to hold for about 15 seconds on each side. So make sure after you do the first side, you go ahead and do the second side as well. Make sure you're even. I'm not necessarily going to hold all of these for the full 15 to 30 seconds that we would want you to hold them for, but go ahead and make sure you're doing that. The next one, we're going to stretch our triceps a little. So we're going to reach up next to our head, come down, and put your hand in between the shoulders on your back. And you can use that other arm to kind of pull your elbow closer to your head, maybe back, stretch out right through here. Make sure we don't pull too hard, right? We want to make sure we're getting a stretch, and you can feel that stretch, but we're not pulling so hard that we feel any pinching or pain. Okay, and make sure we switch into the other side, so arm up, down between our shoulder blades, and then use that other hand to pull that elbow back. And again, holding for about 15 to 30 seconds on each side for those. And these are some good shoulder stretches to do for or upper body stretches to do after you've done a workout. The next one we're going to do is for our core or our trunk, right? So this is actually a little bit more focused on our back, we're going to do what we call child's pose. So if you've ever done yoga, this is something that might be familiar for you. Okay, we're going to come down onto our knees. We're going to reach our hands forward and put our head down to the ground. So this is what we call child's pose. And again, we're going to hold this for 30 seconds to like a full minute. If you want to, in the middle, you can rotate your hands to one side and then the other side, because that'll help move the stretch from just your lower back and down into your sides. Okay, so about a minute there. And then last, we're going to do some nice stretches for our legs. One of those that I really like, this stretches our hamstrings, so behind our legs. We're going to have one leg out straight. The other one we're going to bring in and put our foot right above our knee or right below, depending on where more comfortable for you, but definitely just not right on your knee joint. And we're going to go ahead and reach for our toe. And again, we're going to do that for like 15 or 30 seconds here. And then we're going to switch sides, right? So again, I'm not holding for the full 15 or 30 seconds, but you definitely should after you do this exercise challenge. Right, so make sure we switch legs. We're reaching for that toe, and you should feel that stretch right behind your leg, behind your knee, and the hamstring. And then one more for our legs, because we did a lot of lunges today, and we also had those jump squats and the squat holds, is we're going to stretch through our quads or our thighs, right? So for this one, if you need to hold on to something, you can. If sometimes balance can be a challenge. But we're going to stand on one leg, and we're going to grab the foot of that other leg and just kind of pull our heel towards our glute, okay? And we should feel a stretch down through the front of our leg here, down through the front of our leg. And again, we're going to hold for about 15 or 30 seconds on that first side, and then go ahead and switch sides and hold for 15 or 30 seconds on the other side. And this is going to feel really good after all those lunges and all those squats. So, thank y'all again for joining me as I walked us through some physical activity exercises and knowledge, and then a fun little challenge from the Post Center to you. I hope y'all enjoy it. If you decide to do the Eat the Rainbow Challenge, or if you decide to make it a little more personal and maybe spell out your own name, I hope you enjoy that as well. No matter how you're exercising, remember that the point is to have a good time and to stay healthy. So find what works for you and really have fun with it. And again, thank you for Coach Hugh for helping me out today, and have a wonderful time exercising, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this mini lesson. The Post Center for Health Education now has online programs available. We've converted some of our most popular programs to an online format. We promise the same great content, same enthusiastic staff, and engaging activities, all that make the PO experience so valuable, unique, and effective. To book a program, please visit our website or call us today.